On March 18, 1858, a German family living in Paris, France, had a son and named him Rudolf. Their last name was Diesel, Rudolf Diesel. The name might sound familiar. Let's move forward to see what he accomplished. When Rudolf turned 12, a major issue arose. A war broke out between France and Germany. Since Rudolf's family was German, they were forced to flee France. They made their way to London and eventually returned to Germany. Rudolf was an exceptionally intelligent child. He was fluent in French, German, and English to the extent that he wrote poetry in all three languages. Interestingly, alongside his linguistic talent, he was an excellent pianist. Rudolf graduated from high school in Germany and, being highly intelligent, entered the Technical University of Munich, the most modern and advanced university in Germany at the time. There, Rudolf met a man named Carl von Linde, who greatly influenced him. It's worth mentioning that Carl would later invent the system for producing cold air by moving gas. However, we're talking about 1875, when Rudolf was a student, and Carl was a 33-year-old young professor. Despite the age difference, they became friends due to their shared ideas. Both were quite proud and thought no one could surpass them. But upon meeting, each admitted there was another person like themselves. Carl invented a machine that could produce ice and continually worked on improving it. Meanwhile, Rudolf Diesel graduated with a degree in 1880. Carl had been waiting for this moment. He asked Rudolf to work with him, saying, "You are the best engineer for my project." Rudolf Diesel, who enjoyed his work, quickly agreed. This marked the beginning of a partnership that became the Linde Company, which might sound familiar. Today, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation producing industrial gases. But let's return to 1880, when these two were collaborating and filing various patents. Over time, Rudolf Diesel grew dissatisfied. He noticed that every invention they created was registered under the Linde Company's name, and he had no role in the recognition. It was a situation somewhat similar to Nikola Tesla, whose inventions were attributed to Thomas Edison. However, Rudolf Diesel wasn't as naive as Tesla. Although the profits were shared equally, Rudolf insisted, "Money isn't the issue, I want my name on the patents." Consequently, he decided to leave and pursue his own path. Initially uncertain of what to do, Rudolf gravitated toward motors. It's worth noting that both Rudolf and Carl influenced each other. Carl had taught Rudolf everything he knew about motors. Rudolf often criticized steam engines, calling them inefficient and wasteful, saying they required too much fuel and had high wear and tear. He sought to design an engine with higher efficiency, lower costs, and less wear. Rudolf rented a laboratory with his savings, bringing various steam engines to experiment with. He conducted dangerous experiments, such as injecting ammonia gas, which could be lethal, into the engines. In one instance, a motor exploded in the lab. When looking at the aftermath, one wouldn't think anyone survived, as it resembled a grenade explosion. But Rudolf emerged unscathed, undeterred, and continued his experiments. As a result of exposure to various gases, Rudolf's eyesight began to weaken. By the age of 30, his vision had deteriorated significantly. At the time, the cause wasn't understood, and he was prescribed thick glasses. Undeterred, he returned to the lab. He shifted his focus to gasoline engines, wondering, if gasoline explodes with a spark, why can't it ignite under pressure? This question marked the first step toward inventing the diesel engine. The fundamental idea of a diesel engine is that instead of relying on a spark for ignition, it uses high pressure to cause combustion. Rudolf was inspired to develop this concept because he had created a fuel from petroleum, which we now call diesel. Unlike gasoline, it didn't ignite easily, so Rudolf wanted an engine that could run on it. After 4 years of trial and error, Rudolf built the first concept of the diesel engine in 1896. It was a groundbreaking design for its time. Despite being a prototype, it was 26 times more efficient than a comparable gasoline engine, offering higher power and lower fuel consumption and wear. However, the initial design needed improvements. While some wanted to use it in trains and ships, it wasn't yet viable. Rudolf devoted himself entirely to refining the diesel engine, abandoning all other inventions. For 2 years, he worked 18 hours a day. This relentless effort led to a nervous breakdown, but his passion drove him to recover quickly and resume his work in the lab. Although the engine still had flaws, it was functional enough to be patented under Rudolf Diesel's name. Many companies sought licenses from him to produce diesel engines and paid royalties, making Rudolf Diesel very wealthy. With his newfound fortune, Rudolf turned to his long-forgotten passion, traveling with his family. By 1913, diesel engines were widely used in trains, ships, and automobiles. On September 29, 1913, while on a trip to England for a meeting with the British Ministry of Industry, Rudolf boarded the SS Dresden. He had dinner at 10 p.m., went to his cabin at 10:45 p.m., and instructed the staff to wake him at 6 a.m. However, by morning, Rudolf was missing. His cabin was untouched, with even his pajamas neatly folded on the bed. His shoes and clothes were found near the ship's stern, suggesting he had jumped into the sea. Many believed he had committed suicide due to the cold and wild waters of the English Channel. However, his family and friends strongly denied this, stating that Rudolf was not someone who would take his own life. 10 days later, a Dutch ship found a body in the English Channel. Although the corpse was unrecognizable, a wallet in the clothing was identified by Rudolf's son as belonging to his father. Speculations abounded. Some suggested suicide, while others believed he was murdered. Theories of foul play included suspicions about the German government, which might have opposed Rudolf selling his invention to the British. In the tense political climate of 1913, with Europe on the brink of World War I, the diesel engine was seen as a strategic military asset, particularly for submarines. Although there's no definitive evidence, Rudolf Diesel's mysterious death remains a subject of intrigue. Regardless of the circumstances, his revolutionary invention ensured his name would endure through history, symbolized by diesel engines and fuel. Please support us with subscribe, like, and comments, and thanks for your watching.